Some call them lunchtime lifesavers. Others call them the most perfect sandwiches to ever exist. At Zaxby's, we just call them our signature fan favorites. The Southern TLC Filet Sandwich has hand-breaded chicken with fresh tomato and crisp lettuce. The famous Kickin' Chicken Sandwich features spicy tongue torch and Cool Ranch sauces. And for a limited time, fried pickles are back. 2 classic sandwiches and a legendary appetizer. 3 more reasons you're gonna get a kick out of Zaxby's.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? I'm Aslan. Corey Clark's here as well. We are Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. They're open. Drive through. Check it out. Use your delivery apps. I did have the Southern TLC filet sandwich. It helped make my weekend that much better. No tomato, though. No tomato per usual. Use the promo code WARCHANT30. Gets you 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, if you're not a member, which you are, today is going to mainly just be me talking about all the things that we've been doing on the message boards and the website and what we got coming up. That's pretty much the extent of the show. Are you psyched to talk about all that?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's give the people what they want.
I did not read, but I did see the Florida State has advanced to the Final Four. Is that
No,
true?
they're already in the Final Four.
Oh, they're in the Final Four. We're in the championship game.
Yeah, they advanced to the championship game.
What happened?
Let's see. Well, obviously, as we all know, MJ couldn't play because the NCAA had suspended him for the fight with the mascot.
Right.
So he had to sit the game out. But Patrick Williams had 26. And Raekwon Gray hit the go-ahead 3 with about a minute left. Biggest shot of his life for sure.
Okay.
And then our man Dominic blocked Azubuike he blocked their other guy Dotson on the other end. Azubuike, or as Wilkes calls him, Azubrique,
Oh, hell.
missed 6 free throws down the stretch, and that's how Florida State came back. And then Raekwon Gray hit the big 3, and then Anthony Polite made the free throws down the stretch, and they're on to the championship game, man.
Is it Louisville in the championship game?
Playing Louisville. Louisville took care of Gonzaga.
Man, I kind of wanted the Zags.
Yeah, it's like you either going to play Louisville for the 3rd time this year, or you're going to play Gonzaga for the 3rd straight NCAA tournament. So that's just how the cookie crumbles, man. But Louisville played well. Nora had a big game. So it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season.
It's impossible almost, man.
Almost impossible.
So, all right. Otherwise, Seminole Madness, the other bracket going on right now. Special teams in focus. So everything's chalk, very chalky right now. Greg Reed and Joe Wessel are in the matchup, as well as they're 1 and a 4 seed. Greg Reed being Greg Reed got a 1 seed. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think we hate recency bias so much in this business that I was thinking that maybe he would be penalized just because, it's too soon. We don't really have proper perspective on his career, but it was good to see him be a 1 seed. Meanwhile, my guy Willie Reed's struggling in a 2-3 matchup against Tamarick Vanover.
What's the percentage there? What are the percentages there?
On Warchant, it was, and actually the poll closed, so it's over with. 65% to 35%.
Tamarick Vanover beat Willie Reed 65 to 35?
Lapped him.
Oh man, what's the matter with you people?
I don't have a good recollection of the early 90s the way you do. Like I thought Vanover just had this is not me diminishing him, but it is me diminishing him, I guess, because I'm trying to prop up Willie Reed. Did he have multiple seasons of just giving everybody a nightmare? I thought it was like he had 1 season that was just remarkable, like as a freshman.
Yeah, so in 92, he took a kickback against Wake Forest for a touchdown. Then the very next week, he took the opening kickback against Miami. And then in the Florida game, he had 2 70-plus yard kick returns, and they kept kicking it to him. One would have been a touchdown, but he just got tripped up at the 10-yard line or something. So he had 4 huge kick returns. And he was so good that I know it probably was Garnet and Gold, were printing T-shirts that with his image on it, his likeness, I guess I should say, that said, "Go ahead, kick it deep, we dare you."
Nice.
But in 1993, number one, that team never gave up any points. so teams weren't kicking off a lot anyway. But when they did, they never kicked it deep. I think Notre Dame might have been the only team that kicked it deep the whole season. So yeah, it's basically Tamarick Vanover on the strength of really impressive 4 or 5 impressive kick returns. But he only did it for the 1 year because in '93 nobody kicked it deep and he never returned punts. So he didn't get a lot of at bats his sophomore year, and then he went pro. He went to the CFL after his sophomore year. So, which was the only Florida State guy I remember doing that.
What was the
leaving
story?
early.
What was the story on that?
Well, he just wanted to go play pro football, I guess, and he
paid?
didn't want to come back for a junior year. And it's still the rule now that you can't leave until after you've been in school for 3 years. So he went to the CFL and made money for a year. And that's back when the CFL was expanding. So like half their teams were in America, which was really bizarre.
Okay.
And then he went and played with the Chiefs for a few years and was a really good kick returner.
I remember that. I do remember him playing with the Chiefs.
So I'm not saying he wasn't awesome. He was.
Yeah,
It's just if you're looking at what they did at Florida State and how they contributed to Florida State, I don't know how you would take Tamarick Vanover over Willie Reed. Willie Reed was awesome.
Wow. See, I wasn't going to go that far. I mean, I think that's pretty cool in and of itself. Like his reputation preceded him that much that he
That's
did
true.
so well that one season that they feared him that much.
Yeah, they would just pooch it. Yeah, that's true. I just think that Willie Reed, Tamarick Vanover, I think was the better offensive player. Like he was the best receiver on that as a freshman, and then he was obviously really good in '93 too. But Willie Reed, those punt returns, I think he had 3 for touchdowns. He had 1 in the ACC championship game. He had another one against Penn State.
Yep.
I think he had the highest average per punt return in Florida State history for one season. So, I shouldn't have said it like that. I get why people would have voted Vanover. It's just that I feel like we kind of got cheated for Vanover because he really only got the 1 year returning kicks. Right. But he was awesome, man. Local kid, too.
Yeah. Was he? I didn't know he
was
Rickards?
I think, Leon, I think.
Leon? Okay.
I'm going to look that up. You keep talking. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think Willie's propped up by the fact that season was such trash by and large, and it ended on a relatively decent note, and he was a large part of that reason why. I mean, that punt return against Virginia Tech flipped everything, and then he gave life to that team in the Orange Bowl against Penn State. Gosh, like Penn State was like number 5. They were highly ranked going in that one. I remember, I think was it Mario Manningham beat them late touchdown Michigan back in the end zone,
right.
Big
Yeah.
House.
Yeah, that was their only loss, like on the last play of the game.
Yeah. So I think that's why I remember Willie so fondly. It was like that season was such a well. It started off well. I mean, they were 5-6-0, I think, and then they lost to Virginia, like Marquise Haggins or one of the Haggins guys for Virginia just absolutely ate us alive, and then it was just everything exploded from there. But then, they won the ACC championship game in Jacksonville, first ever, and part of it was because of Willie. And then the Penn State game, Orange Bowl, that was a good one too. Although I think we missed an extra point in that game, did we not? It's just Mesa, I think, missed an extra point.
Yeah, and missed a field goal in overtime, I think, as well.
Oh, I remember this. Here's a quick little story about that. So I had a huge crush on this young lady. She was a girl. I'm going to call her a girl. She was a girl. I had a crush on this girl.
Good. All right, okay.
And my buddy Mercedes Mike, he's my buddy. He's my good friend. I was in his wedding, love him to death, but he's kind of a jerk. He thinks that we don't realize he's being a jerk. And it's like, Mike, we're all smarter than you. You make more money than most of us, but we're all still smarter than you. But he invited her out with us. It was me, him, and her to watch the game. She actually went to Penn State. She was a diver on the team. Gosh, she was gorgeous. She's still really good looking, too. She's maintained well. I got an eye for these things, Corey. I'm telling you, if Brady needs some help, identifying somebody in a few years.
And how they project. Not just what they look like now, but their projection.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
So anyways, I mean, it was, it's a New Year's Day game or whatever. And, I'm like, hey, he's like, you want to go watch the game? I'm like, sure. He's like, well, let's go to this. We go to this one bar to watch the game. And then he invites her. Like, I'm there, and then 2 minutes later she shows up, and he knows I got this crush on her, but we had this, falling out. And then she was very obnoxious about the entire game. Like, every single time Penn State did something, she would just scream and yell and holler. And I was at the point of life where I really, really took Florida State stuff seriously. So if you were being loud and obnoxious and cheering against my team, I really resented you. So I just remember that being just such an awkward viewing party. And then as soon as the game was over, I remember I just pulled like $40 out of my wallet. I threw it on the table, just walked out. And he was just laughing. He was just he does this really like horrible cackle laugh where he can't get it all. And it was traumatic. It was traumatic. But Willie Reed, though. Willie Reed gave me hope. Lorenzo Booker had a pretty good game, too.
Yeah, and she wasn't being obnoxious when Willie Reed was housing that punt return.
She was not.
She was probably stone cold quiet then.
Exactly. Speaking of the good old days, War Chattin is going to hit volume number 2, and it's going to be the Choke-A-Doke. I don't know. There's a special guest. Should we just leave it like that? Should we just tease it like that? Or should we publicize who the special guest is? It was you and Gene, obviously, walking down memory lane talking about one of the best wins in Florida State history. And it was a win.
Yeah, it was a win, in quotes. No, we should publicize it.
All right.
I feel like. Go for it.
You do it. You
So it was Gene and I, and then the quarterback from that Florida State team, and it was about 45 minutes. It's really cool. Danny Cannell was awesome. Very gracious with his time, number one. Not that any of us have a ton to do right now, but still, I don't want to diminish it. It was very nice for him to do that. And I told him flat out, I was like, dude, I was in the stands that day, and the only reason we didn't leave at the end of the third quarter was because we wanted to see if Thad Busby got in the game. That's the only reason we were sticking around. And he said, look, man, and he talks about how when he was going to the locker room at halftime when it was 24-3, he was getting booed. And people, I guess people were booing the team. But there were plenty of students that maybe have said not nice things to him as he was going into the tunnel. And he admitted that when it was 31-3, all they were trying to do was to not get too embarrassed. Like, just get a score or two, make it look okay. And then, he goes into everything, the whole fourth quarter, virtually, obviously every touchdown, but every drive he talks about Mark Richt, the discussions between him and Mark Richt, between him and Bowden, we think it's his only career rushing touchdown at Florida State. It's really cool for him. And, obviously I remember that stuff because I'm a weirdo, but it makes sense that he remembers virtually every play of that game, especially the fourth quarter. And it's just a really unique perspective because he wasn't Danny Cannell then. Like, he was pretty good that year, but not great. The only tough team they played in 94 before Florida was Miami. And he did not, as he admitted, he did not play well. He actually got benched. And so, and then he's down to the next rival, the only other really good team they play that year. They're down 31-3 in the third quarter. And he's like, yeah, man, they talked about it at halftime. I could see Coach Richt and Coach Bowden talking about whether I was going to be benched or not. And he talks about that, what that felt like, and then as the rally started. It's really cool, man. It's like 45 minutes of him getting into detail, play calls, spider wide banana.
Spider White.
All that good stuff. It's got some inside baseball stuff, but it's also got some philosophical what it meant to his career.
Yeah, good anecdotal stories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. I liked it a lot.
Was Gene at the game?
He was too. Yeah, Gene and I were both there. Gene might have been a student.
Did he sticking out? Nah, he was a student in the. I don't want to date him, but he wasn't a student.
Oh yeah, he was a student during the. Was it the Blendikoff days?
Yeah. Lane Fenner. He took the photo of Lane Fenner in the end zone. Touchdown.
In 64, that's right. Yeah, he and my dad were, I think, frat brothers. Gene was there. He didn't talk about if he left. Maybe he left. Maybe that's why he didn't share his stories, because he left. All right. But yeah, we stayed. I was there for the whole thing. And I think that's what we'll do for a lot of those. Like, if we can, we'll get a player from one. Not all of them will have players. I like doing the Michigan one too, with just Gene and I talking about it. But obviously with Cannell, being able to get Cannell was a really cool get and a great perspective on one of the all-time famous games in Florida State history.
Big get. Well done, guys. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a podcast at some point, maybe this week, if not next week. The entire episode will be adapted from that. It's actually video chat. They were able to get Danny on video, so check it out. I'll be editing it here soon at some point. So that's going on over at warchant.com. One last memory lane thing. On Thursday, they re-aired the national title game 2013 against Auburn, 34-31 victory. In watching that, did you get any different? Did you learn anything different? Did anything stand out to you differently watching that game, Corey? Because I was kind of refereeing, or at least trying to keep that stream going up live, and you were driving it, did a fantastic job with Ira and Gene.
Thanks,
and
buddy.
You were like really into it. I felt like, I don't know if it was everything just coming back to you slowly, like where there were plays you forgot. You're like, oh, I totally forgot about that, because you have such a locked in memory. But 13, you know stuff from the 90s back and front to back.
Yeah, I remember more stuff from the 93 season than I do the 2013 season. It's weird how the brain works like that, but it does. But no, it wasn't that as much as like they were behind me, so I felt like I had to be the one that drove it, because I was watching it live on ESPNU, and I figured most of the people that were watching it live with us were watching it with me on cable. So I felt like I had to drive it. So it just would have been weird, like if Kermit Whitfield's running it back for a touchdown, and I'm not saying anything because I'm waiting for them to catch up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Since they were like 20 seconds behind me, so that's why I drove it. But no, I was. It was probably the highlight of my career. I mean, just being out there and covering that game, but covering that team was. There's a lot of, look, man, this is a great job. There's so many more perks and pluses than negatives. But that was probably the biggest perk of my career, was being able to go, getting paid for a week, getting paid to go out to Los Angeles for a week and then watch that game, and then really getting paid to watch that team for a full year. But going out there and getting to watch that game and that team was really the highlight of a career, man.
Who were all the people cycling in at defensive tackle? I saw Niall Lawrence Sample come in, but then I think Jacoby McDaniel was still part of the mix there, right?
Yeah, he played some. Especially with Jernigan having to go back and forth to the sideline because he was, I guess they said he had the flu after the game. He was incredible in that game.
Take that, Michael Jordan.
But Niall Lawrence Sample, Eddie Goldman, Jernigan, Jacoby some. Those were the main guys, I think.
What I didn't remember Kelvin dropping so many freaking passes, and one thing I didn't appreciate in real time, and again, I was at the game. I was a little bit inebriated. I was under distress the first half. I was surrounded by Auburn fans. Just wasn't a good situation for your guy. And I think you were mentioning it in the live chat, but it was something that is one of those names and that you just say and you kind of go along with everything because everybody says how good of a player he was. But it's like, can I really cite and rattle off all these great things? And you can talk about the Clemson game. But, man, LaMarcus Joyner really was freaky. Of like that entire loaded defense, all those guys in the league. I don't know if Jalen's going to end up having the most decorated NFL career out of everybody. I don't know who people would say was the best college guy of them. Man, Joyner, I think, might have been it, though. I mean, maybe it's more tough to really appreciate Jernigan because we don't watch line play. But, just the way Joyner would miss on the read. Like, the read option stuff, he would miss it. He would read it wrong. But he still would make the tackle somehow. He was that fast. It's incredible at his size, too, bringing in and tackling guys down. I miss that guy.
Yeah, man, he's a one in a million type athlete, man. To be that, he wasn't, he has those long arms, but he's not tall. He's not overly big. But when he hits you, everybody went backwards. He would get on them so quickly. Gene brought it up in the live chat, but the Taj Boyd play at Clemson, where Boyd is just starts backing up a little bit, this little guy's not going to get me. No. Oh, where's the football? Yeah. That he's on you so fast, and it took nobody could understand how fast he was, even watching him on film. It was just you had to see it or play against it to understand. And yeah, man, he's just even the big pick that P.J. Williams has. He fumbled it inexplicably as he's getting tackled. He just lets go of the ball as he's coming to the ground, and LaMarcus is right there to pick it up. He's just one of those guys, man. And they had a few. I think Jalen's going to be the guy that's remembered most out of that secondary, but LaMarcus was the best player on that 2013 secondary. I'm not saying he's a better football player than Jalen Ramsey, but LaMarcus Joyner as a senior was a better player than Jalen Ramsey was.
Yeah, on January 6th, 2014.
Yeah, LaMarcus Joyner was the best player in that secondary. And I'll always say that Timmy Jernigan was the best player on that defense.
Okay.
Again, he's the only one that Jimbo made stand to the sideline sometimes so the offense could get some work done. Because he just wrecked them in practice in the preseason. He told me that. It's we had to tell him to go to the sideline. He we had to get work done. And it wasn't like he was going up against scrubs. That offensive line for Florida State was pretty darn good. They all went to the league except one of them. But that's how dominant Jernigan was in college.
Now, they all went
And he
to
was
the league.
dominant in that game.
They all went to the league, everybody in that offensive line.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, no, I didn't think
Josue was on a practice squad.
I mean, I'm talking about getting in a game,
Well,
standing on the sidelines. But yeah, I mean, he made a practice squad. I would guess the entire two deep made a practice squad.
actually, no, because I don't think Stork's backup did. Either Hofield or Austin Barron. Pretty sure neither of those guys ever got.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point.
And then, you've talked about it so many times. You've always. I feel like every year when the game comes around, you'll tweet about it. But like, what? How did they not? And it worked out for the best. But the Trey Mason final touchdown. To see, I haven't watched that play specifically. I haven't watched the game start to finish probably since like 2015. Man, everything worked out for the best. But golly, that was ugly. Like the effort, everything was gross.
Yeah, it was. You could tell they were pretty exhausted. Once he picked up that 3rd and 12 with that incredible throw, I just think that was, in the play before even LaMarcus said I think it made a 7-yard tackle for loss.
Yeah.
And then they just ran it down the right, ran it to the right again. And Mason was very good. He got stronger as the games went on. Jalen Ramsey was a freshman, and that was, I think it's the best. It's the best thing that obviously could have happened to that defense because I think if he makes that tackle, number one, it's still a first down, and Auburn's going to milk it and score with 20 seconds left.
Yeah.
But they scored with it. They gave too much time. I know Mason did his Heisman pose, but they gave Jameis a minute 18, as opposed to giving him 18, and then it wouldn't have mattered if there was any magic. That was done. You're not going to go down the field and score in 18 seconds. So it was the best thing that could have happened to Florida State because I think it was an eventuality that Auburn was going to score. But yeah, best missed tackle in Florida State history for sure. But I don't think that makes Jalen feel any better about it.
Yeah.
Was that the last time he got ran over? I mean, people don't truck that dude.
No, I think so. It all worked out. It all worked out. Suck at Auburn. I wonder how far we are though from people diminishing that win and being like, yeah, whatever. Florida State beat an SEC team, but it was Auburn. It wasn't like they beat Alabama or LSU. Like that's what I was thinking watching that game.
But Auburn beat Alabama and LSU. I think actually Auburn lost to LSU that year.
They did, yeah.
But they beat Alabama, so if they beat Alabama, Florida State beat the team that beat Alabama.
The anti-Jimbo crowd, I'm just saying. Well, I could see them being like,
well, I don't know, man. I know that you have a weird relationship with Florida State the fan base when it comes to Jimbo. I can't imagine anybody dismisses what Jimbo did that year. That is an all-time great team. And again, Jameis was probably the difference. But you could have been the quarterback on that team, and you'd have won 10 or 11 games. That team was stacked. So Jimbo's always going to get credit for that. It's just, it was a typical Jimbo game in the sense that you get 5 weeks off. They came out a little flat, a little rusty. But he figured it out in time.
I feel like the defense came out more rested than the offense. I mean, I know James was kind of spraying it, but they got in the field goal range early on. The defense just got bailed out. Like Auburn had at least 3 plays, I think I can remember, from the first half where they were wide open. I mean, absolutely wide open, dead to rights.
Well, both of them. The first drive, they had a guy that was 20 yards behind anyone, and he underthrew him, and then they hit a touchdown on the same play late the next quarter. I think they left at least 7 points out there in the first half. But the difference is Florida State's offense wasn't stopped. Their first string offense wasn't stopped by anyone ever.
Right.
I mean, I don't know the least amount of points they had at half of a game, but I would guess it would have been 21 or 24. And they had 3 points at that with a minute to go in the first half against a bad defense. Like Auburn's offense was good. You knew Auburn's offense was going to be a bit of a challenge. But their defense had been bad a bit of a problem, I like to say. Especially back then, I would use that phrase a lot. But Auburn's defense was not good at all. They gave it up like 40 points to Missouri in the SEC championship game. They just weren't. That wasn't their strength. So you thought Florida State's offense, even if the defense struggled a little bit, the offense would put up, at least 3 touchdowns in the first half. But old Damian Craig's over there stealing signs.
Jerk.
Yeah.
Jerk. Ungrateful. So disrespectful. Jimbo's groomed you since you were a wee pup. That's how you repay him?
Yeah, at least Jameis got a big hug with him afterwards.
Yeah. Where Craig at? Where Craig? Where Craig? Focus,
boy.
Jameis, focus. Anyhow, so with this whole pandemic thing going on, Corey, a lot of publishers have been allowing their content to be read free of charge, like the Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. So I've been reading the Wall Street Journal a lot. I've been reading The Economist, and I've been reading Ira Schofel, most importantly, on Warchant.com. And Ira had a good story that was posted on Friday just about no one knows what's going to happen come August, come September in terms of what's going to happen with the college football season. We can maybe start talking about it April 10th once the self-imposed gag order is removed from your guy over here on whether or not the season will happen and what it will look like. But reading that story that Ira wrote, and, I saw somebody, I think Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated, I don't know if he did a deep dive to the magnitude of what Ira did, but he, posted a screenshot about the revenues versus the deficits that each of the programs that LSU were running. Yeah. And it was crazy to see it, laid out like that. And we're now at the point where everybody's hurting. College athletics, real life, everything, every part of civilization has been touched by this whole COVID-19 thing. And the only thing I can think of reading that story, excuse me, and I know Iowa State has kind of stepped to the plate here and asked their coaches to take pay cuts, and it sounds like everybody did across the board. And you keep hearing people talk about how important it is to have a comprehensive sports program, athletic program, rather. You talked about a bubble. I don't want to keep rambling here, but ultimately at the end of the day, reading everything Ira wrote out there, looking at the numbers, I just don't see how much longer universities can be responsible for funding programs that not only do not make money, but they lose significant sums of money.
Yeah, it's an issue. I've talked about the bubble bursting with coaching salaries in college football, and that is going to happen. But this might burst too, just in the sense that, there's a sport on campus, and I'm not going to name the sport. It's a good sport. They're all good sports. I shouldn't even have to specify that. It's a good sport. It wins a lot of games, but it makes no money for the university at all. $0, because it's free to get into their games. And it costs the university over $500,000 a year just in salary for the coaches. Just in salary. When you talk about travel and everything else, you're talking over $1 million with no return. And other than they win games, which is important, but the football pays for all of that. And so even if there is a football season, and we're hoping, we're all crossing fingers, and there's no reason right now to think there won't be, but even if there is a football season, it's going to be different, and it's not going to be nearly as big a moneymaker. I can't imagine season ticket sales are doing well right now. These are revenue streams that aren't coming in and may not come in for months. And so what do? Do you cut a sport? Or do you say, man, Coach Norvell, we really appreciate you being here, and we know you're not making top 10 money in the country. But
not even close.
You're making 3.5. How about we knock that down to 1.2 so we can keep some swimmers on scholarship? You know what I mean?
No way. That's
exactly.
Big. That's big.
Yeah, I really do think that Dabo or Coach K or somebody's going to come out in the next month or so and donate a big chunk portion of their salary. Now, look, K's got more money than last a lifetime. He's been a gazillionaire for 30 years. Dabo, too. Not for 30 years, but he's been making a lot of money here in the last decade. Norvell's not there yet. That was just a suggestion, or that was just an example.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, sure.
If you're outside the top 10 in salary, then you shouldn't have to take a cut. But if you are, I think you should take a cut.
You talking about just in the nation?
Yeah, at that specific sport.
But that's not. I can agree with the sentiment there, but that's not really Florida State's problem, right? Like, Florida State's got to look out for Florida State, whether Norvell's paid 10th or 14th. And maybe Florida State's soccer coach is a top 8 paid coach in the country, or their women's basketball coach. And I don't think that's true, but I'm just throwing those out there. Do they take pay cuts too? Because it's not much. It's certainly not compared to Florida State. But, you have assistant coaches all across the campus, and this isn't specific to Florida State again. It's every school like Florida State. You'll have an assistant softball coach, an assistant tennis coach, an assistant this coach, or an assistant that coach that's making over $100,000 a year. That's not a ton compared to football, but it's a lot of money compared to what 90% of the country makes. And when you talk about tightening purse strings, are we talking about that? Like, are we talking about the ones that make millions of dollars? And I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that there's going to be a bit of a reckoning with these sports and keeping them afloat. And maybe the way they schedule, maybe the way they travel in the foreseeable future. By the way, speaking of this, so what it's going to take, and I'm bringing this up, this is a good segue because I wanted to talk about this, because the president came out on whenever that was, Saturday. He had a call with all the professional commissioners, professional sports leagues commissioners, trying to figure out a way to get, he's basically saying we hope to get back sooner rather than later. We need to get sports up and running again. And I don't disagree.
The cure can't be worse. The cure can't be worse than the problem, Corey.
Sure. So, but what's going to have to happen is there's going to have to be some, and I don't disagree. I'm with them there. I'm hoping for it too, and I want it to happen. There has to be some critical thinking at some point, and there's going to have to be some concessions made to get. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in our houses for a year. There have to be some, and not be able to watch anything either. Like, I love talking to Danny Cannell, but I don't know that I want to do that for the next year, not talk about real sports. So my thought was, here's my thought. Stick with me here. So the NBA restarts. Let's say we get on the other side of this. Right now, it's awful. Don't even look at the numbers. I'm an idiot, and I look at these numbers. I go to these websites, and it's like a scoreboard, and it's awful, and I hate it. And the numbers just keep going up and up. Like on Sunday, there were over 1,100 deaths in this country. It's enough to make you just want to break down or curl up in the fetal position. It's awful. We have 350,000 people infected just that we know about. So, and there's a chance we could get to 100,000 deaths. It's just awful. So I'm not diminishing that at all. I'm not dismissing that at all. But when we get on the other side of this thing, say May 10th, and we see hope, we see a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's not going to be completely out of our society.
No.
It's not going to just miraculously disappear. There's going to be some strands here and there, or some hot spots, whatever you want to call it, from here and there, we think, for months, maybe into next year until we get a vaccine. We can't just shut down as a country for a year. So here's my thought. Roll with me here.
Rolling.
The NBA says, they come out, say we're on the other side of it. The NBA comes out and says we're starting the NBA playoffs, on June 14th in Los Angeles. Each team has 12 players. I think they carry 15, but for the sake of this, we're going with 12. And the other 3 guys that aren't going to be on the active roster, you're not invited. You don't get to come to the arena. So they go straight to the playoffs. There's 16 teams in the playoffs. So that's 12 players and let's say 8 coaches/trainers. Maybe more than that. But anyway, you're talking about probably 350 NBA personnel, plus an additional 50 referees. All the teams go to Los Angeles. They all stay in the same hotel. They all get tested. Every single person that walks into that hotel and then goes to the arena gets tested. And I'm sorry, NBA players, it's not fair, but you are going to be quarantined in that hotel. The only 2 places you will get to go, especially if you're like LeBron and you're going to be playing 4 rounds, so you're going to be there for a month and a half. Sorry, man, you're at that hotel for the next 7 weeks of your life. And the only 2 places you go are the arena and then to the hotel. And that's it. And I know it kind of sounds crazy.
Kind of?
But you can't travel. You can't have them going up with, I know they get their own private planes. They still have to go to airports. They still have to get shuttle vans. So you have to keep them quarantined, and it's 500 people. There's plenty of hotels in Los Angeles that can hold 500. Ain't nobody else using them. So you have every game played at either the Staples Center or the Forum. Every team, and I'm only picking Los Angeles because the Lakers were the number 1 seed. I guess we could do Milwaukee.
Vegas. They're talking about Vegas.
Or Vegas, whatever. Yeah. But and again, it sounds crazy. What, you're going to put 16 NBA teams in one hotel, and then they're only going to go from the hotel to the arena and back and forth, and everybody that steps foot in that arena and everybody that steps foot in that hotel is tested. And again, I get the other side is, well, we need tests for other people. Okay, but we also do need sports for the psyche of our country. And I'm not saying that jokingly. Like I'm starting to get a little bit out of my skin, man, and it's only been 3 weeks. What's it going to be like 2 months from now when we got nothing? And I just think this isn't obviously what's going to happen, but if all the players that are going to be on the court get tested and they're all negative, then you play the games in front of no one. And if the broadcasters want to be there, they get tested too. Otherwise, they can broadcast from Skype.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
a lot of.
Don't you think it's got to be something like that? Somebody's got to be the first league that's going to do it. They got to test. Again, you're talking about 500 tests. We are testing apparently hundreds of thousands a day now. Still not enough, but we're doing much. We've ramped up the testing. So test those 500 people. Test them every day if you have to. But get sports going again in 2 months. As long as they're quarantined and nobody's sneaking in or out, you have armed security guards. Anybody tries to get on the floor, you shoot them in the knee.
With rubber bullets.
Talk to me, Aslan. Talk to me.
Yeah, well, I think that was the plan. Like not the plan, but I think that was one of the sort of ideas that was being kicked around was like pretty much make it a bubble. And to your point, like it's the arena, it's the hotel, and that's it. But yeah, man, like, these guys got wives, they got kids, and for like 7 weeks, like you cannot go home, your wife cannot come see you, your kids cannot come see you. I mean, what then? Well, if the kids get tested, then it's okay. We're gonna be able to test everybody's kids. I don't have a kid.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want to do that.
Can my mom and dad come see me?
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're going on a long road trip.
Yeah.
And look, some of those guys will be done in a week.
Right.
No
fans, though. No fans, right?
No Obviously. Fans. Yeah, no fans. You can't. I just don't. That's what I worry about, man. Is how can you have fans going to something in June?
How can you have competitive sports without a crowd? That's the one thing I don't think anybody's really ever thought this thing through. It sounded like a good idea at first, in late February, like, we'll just do it with an empty crowd. And it's like, man,
I think it's going to be odd at first, but I think it would, imagine the Lakers playing the Clippers, well, number one in an empty arena, and you hear all the talking. Like, they talk a lot on the court, on an NBA court, but you never hear it. But now that's all you're going to hear. You're going to hear, switch, back, back screen, whatever they yell at each other. I'm open. You're going to get to hear all that a lot with the shoes, a lot of shoes squeaking on the floor.
Yeah, that's great. Can't wait.
But I mean, or we can just watch Hobart versus Syracuse on the ACC, Hobart versus Syracuse lacrosse on the ACC network for the rest of our lives.
Oh, man, reading the first, paragraph or two of Ira's story, I'm like, I feel like Ira's about to zag. And now talking to you, I feel like you're about to zag, too. We've hit it. We are nearing the tipping point. And I'm not. I'm not nearing it at all because it's getting worse. And I know the Surgeon General said on Saturday or Sunday that this is going to be an awful, awful week for us, like a Pearl Harbor 9/11 type week for us with the deaths that are coming. So I'm not saying anything about it now. I'm not trying to zig or zag right now on April 6th. I'm talking about June 6th, hopefully. Yeah. And if it's obviously still this bad, then it should. I think, and again, I don't want to get too far into it, but it should not be.
We hope, right? We hope. I know. There's some people that think that Florida's peak is going to be in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and
thehill.com actually has a chart of every state's projected peak, and everybody's pretty much coming up on it here in the next 10 days, with the exception of 3 or 4 states. One of them being Florida, and Florida's peak I think is May 4th.
Right. Oh, jeez. I can't. So that means people right now. When you say it's a peak, I'm assuming you mean people. That means people right now are being infected at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
For our peak to be in a month, and I'm like, how is that? I know maybe there were some things that happened in our state that didn't make it seem like we took it that seriously, but the state's shut down now. So what are people? How is it going to be worse now than it was 3 weeks ago when everybody was going to bars and spring break and everything? I don't know. I just don't understand. I feel like the country as a whole has done a good job of trying their best to do the socially distant thing.
Yeah.
Do you agree with my sentiment that, look, I don't think athletes are more important than regular people. I shouldn't even say that. They're not any. They shouldn't get tested just because they're athletes and they're rich. I'm not saying that, but for the collective psyche of our country to know that on July 1st, the playoffs are going to start in the NBA. I think all of us as a country, at least the sports-loving country, could be like, you know what? Put aside 500 tests. I'm cool with that. I'm a reasonable person. I don't put too much stock into sports, but I don't think I'm alone on that hill. That I would be okay for one day all those people getting tested. And if you test positive, it's like you're on the IR.
Right.
You don't get to play. Sorry, man, but none of your other teammates tested positive, so they're playing. Otherwise, we just cancel the season, and we'll see you next February if we're allowed to go back out and play. I mean, at some point, I don't. Football's different. There's just waste. There's so many people on a football team. You're talking about 12 guys on a team.
You literally huddle.
Yeah.
You literally stand.
Oh, right, yeah. Well,
Most
not many
team,
anymore.
yeah.
They all kind of go to the line of scrimmage now. But I just think it would be so good for the just for us to see live sports again. And as long as nobody's being risked, nobody's health is being risked. That's why you test them all, and then just go from there. And I don't know. And if everything's quarantined correctly, if you test positive on a Thursday or test negative on a Thursday, how would you test positive on a Saturday? You got to feel like you're only up against other people that don't have it.
But back to the budget thing here. What I just feel like nothing's going to change. Like nothing would. If you sat down in 2016 with any athletic director and you looked at their books, you would see that football was nice and robust. They probably had a second sport, mainly, most likely men's basketball, that was doing well. Maybe a couple had a third sport. Maybe women's basketball. Maybe baseball. Something else that was at least breaking, not breaking, but at least in the black in six figures. I think like LSU baseball makes them 500. And you'd be like, it's a bummer. We could be making a lot more money. We could set a lot more money aside. We could put it into capital projects and things of that nature. But we get it. We have to provide opportunity to everybody. Title IX, it's a part of federal law. It's mandated that there's equal opportunity and equal spending. We have to do those sort of things. So it's like we can live. Everybody can eat, and we'll all be okay. It could be better, but this is fine. But at the back of their mind, you would look at this year after year and like, man, we're bringing in $70 million in football, $50 million a year in football, and then I'm losing 4 at track, 3 in tennis, 1 in swimming, and it adds up. But you couldn't change it because we're going to be all right ultimately because football is going to save the day. Well, even if a season's played this year, I don't think football saves the day. I feel like now's the time to make it happen.
There could be a model where Florida State. It's not club sports. We have a track team or we have a swimming team, but you're not getting any money to come swim for us. You can come swim for us because we have a team, but I don't know that you necessarily have to start slicing sports. The coaches, and that's why I'm saying about the coaches, they're gonna slice sports if coaches don't. If this gets to a point where it could get to, if some of these models are right, and we're having to deal with this again in the winter or the fall, you might have to cut salaries by a half or furlough them. I mean, it's a reality. You can't pay people. You can't pay a coaching staff $500,000. You shouldn't do it anyway when you think logically. That shouldn't be done anyway. You're paying a coaching staff $500,000 that brings in $0. All they do is lose money for your university. Now, they win games. There's some prestige. They bring in some great people from around the country and around the world to go to your school, but they don't make any money. So from a business sense, that's been a weird business plan for colleges for a while. And now I forgot what my other point was. But I mean, you're gonna have to, you're gonna pay these people $500,000, a 3-man coaching staff or a 3-woman coaching staff, to not coach. So, but they're gonna still expect to get that money, even though they might not have a season. You know what I mean? I don't know that you necessarily have to slice the sport and say we're done with basketball.
There's $12 million in the hole, Corey. $12 million. So you're gonna ask your $230,000 assistant drop down to $90. Cool. We got $140. How much are we still in debt? $11,860,000.
It adds up. But if you have every coach, and that includes Norvell and Hamilton,
he shouldn't have taken more pay cut. He's making $3.5 million. He's below market value at a place like Florida.
He's going to make. Let's play it out in the bad case scenario, which I don't think will happen.
And you're going to take Ham to take a pay cut after what he did this season? Take a pay cut?
It's either that or sorry, man. There's no women's tennis team. I don't know. Obviously you can tell by the way I'm talking. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Okay. My Cliff Notes bumper sticker on this whole thing was: if you're not a revenue earning sport, we're going to treat you like high school. You're not getting a hotel. You get in the bus. You drive to your place. You turn around. You come back home the next day. And then when you make your championship, if you make your conference championship, when we figure this thing out and we get it to where it's some sort of regionalized sport where Ohio and Michigan and they're all playing against each other and it's FIU, FAU, and Florida and UNF and we're all doing this all together, then when you go to the next tier, then you can stay at a hotel. Then we'll put you on a plane. Otherwise, everything else.
That's for now, right? I mean,
for the end of time. What are we doing?
I don't know about all that, but I do think that they're because the alternative you hope is not cutting sports. I know Old Dominion did it. We don't want any sports cut.
I'm not telling anybody no, I'm not cutting any sport.
But you do have to make some sacrifices in the short term until we're through this, right? And I think that goes for that's my bumper sticker blanket statement for everything. Everybody listening to this, everybody at every university in the country, you're going to have to make some sacrifices in the short term until we get through this, even if that means, staying at a Best Western instead of a Four Seasons. No disrespect to Best Western. I can't have that. Potential sponsor.
Oh, he's Corey. I'm Aslan. We'll be back maybe on Wednesday. Renegade Express will be going at some point. We'll be back, though. Not today, but later in the week. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.